All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to demystify some of the most common and honestly most confusing terms in the world of data. So, have you ever felt like you're just lost in a sea of data jargon? Warehouse, lake, lakehouse. I mean, they all start to blur together, right? Well, you're definitely not alone. But stick with me because by the end of this, you'll see how these terms actually tell a really cool story of evolution. And our story starts with the original king of the data castle. And that's him right there, the data warehouse. This was really the first major architecture designed to help businesses make sense of all their data for actual decision-making. Okay, so the best way to think about a data warehouse is to picture this perfectly, almost obsessively organized library. Every single book that comes in is cleaned, cataloged, and put on a very specific shelf. You know exactly where to find anything you need because the entire system is predefined. And that's really its whole reason for being. A data warehouse is all about pulling data from a bunch of different places, your sales department, marketing, finance, and then cleaning it all up and forcing it into one single structured format that's just perfect for analysis and reporting. Now, the key idea here, the secret sauce, is something called schema on write. Don't let the term scare you. A schema is just a blueprint, a set of rules for your data. And schema on write means you have to build that blueprint before a single piece of data is allowed in. It's strict for sure, but that's what makes it so incredibly reliable for things like your quarterly business reports. So, the warehouse is amazing, as long as your data is neat and tidy. But what happens when it's not? What about all that messy modern data we're swimming in today? I'm talking social media posts, images, audio clips. The old structured library just had no way to handle that kind of chaos. And that limitation, well, it led to the next big thing. And that next big thing was the data lake. This was the answer to the absolute explosion of what we now call big data. So, forget the tidy library for a second. Now I want you to imagine a huge, vast, natural lake, and you can just dump anything into it. I mean, structured books, sure, but also raw photos, audio files, random notes, videos, anything and everything in its original, raw format. And that right there is the superpower of a data lake, its incredible flexibility. It's basically a gigantic, low-cost storage pond designed to hold just massive amounts of raw data without you having to figure out a structure for it beforehand. And this is where we see that huge philosophical shift. Remember the warehouse's schema on write? The data lake flips that on its head with schema on read. What that means is you can just pour all your raw data in first, no blueprint needed, and you only apply a structure, a schema, later on, right at the moment you decide you want to analyze it. You can see why this is a total game changer for data scientists who just want to explore and experiment with raw data. Okay, so let's put them head to head, just to make it crystal clear. The warehouse, it's all about clean, structured data, a rigid schema, and its main job is business reporting. The lake, it takes any kind of data, raw and messy, has a super flexible schema, and it's built for exploration and machine learning. Totally different tools for totally different jobs. But, there was a huge catch with this store everything approach. It sounds great in theory, but without really careful management, that beautiful data lake could quickly turn into a dreaded data swamp. A murky, chaotic mess where data gets lost, becomes unreliable, and is basically impossible for anyone to use. Yeah, nobody wants a data swamp. That chaos created a real need for a solution, and that solution came in the form of the Delta Lake. Now, this isn't a totally new building. Think of it more as a powerful upgrade to the lake we already have. So what exactly is a Delta Lake? Well, it's this brilliant open source layer that you put right on top of your existing data lake. Its main mission in life is to bring the kind of reliability you'd expect from a traditional database to that wild, flexible data lake. It does this by adding some really critical features, like ACID transactions, to stop your data from getting corrupted. Okay, let's go back to our analogy for a second. Putting Delta Lake on your data lake is like installing a super sophisticated filtration system and hiring a full-time, meticulous librarian for that lake. Suddenly, the water is clean, and there's a perfect record of every single item that goes in or out. That's how it keeps the swamp from ever forming. And it pulls this off with some really cool upgrades. You've got ACID transactions, which are basically an insurance policy for your data. They guarantee a data operation either finishes perfectly or not at all, no in between, which prevents messes. Then there's time travel, and yeah, it's as cool as it sounds. It lets you go back and look at older versions of your data. Made a mistake? No problem, just roll it back.
These are features that bring that warehouse-level trust and reliability right into the flexible, massive world of the data lake.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got the structured, reliable warehouse. We've got the flexible, scalable lake. And we've figured out how to make that lake reliable. So, what's the next logical step in this whole story? You guessed it, combining the best of everything. And that brings us to the lakehouse. See, the whole idea behind the lakehouse isn't about making you choose one over the other. It's a true hybrid. It's an architecture designed to give you the very best of both worlds, all on a single platform. The goal is to stop needing two separate, expensive, and complicated systems. So how does it actually work? Well, it's a pretty simple but genius idea of layering. You start with the foundation, that cheap, flexible storage of a data lake. Then you add that critical reliability layer on top, something like a Delta Lake. And finally, you build your high-performance tools and management features right on that foundation. What you get is warehouse-like speed and security, but with all your lake-style data. All right, we have covered a ton of ground here. So let's pull this all together one last time with a big picture comparison that should make everything click. And here it is, our whole evolutionary journey on one screen. We started with the data warehouse, our organized library for structured data. That wasn't flexible enough, so we created the data lake, the raw storage lake, to hold everything. But that got messy, so we invented Delta Lake to create a filtered lake with reliability. And that finally leads us to the lakehouse, the modern library that gives us the best of it all. It's structured and flexible, reliable and scalable, the whole shebang. And this quote just nails the whole philosophy behind it. The lakehouse is all about getting rid of those painful trade-offs. Why should you have to pick between reliability for your BI team and flexibility for your data scientists? The whole point is to finally have it all in one system. But, this story is far from over. With AI and machine learning getting hungrier for data every single day, they're going to push us to build architectures that are even faster, even smarter. And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. What's the next step? What comes after the lakehouse?